Welcome to the Imagine 2050 audio blog at imagine2050.net. I'll be your host, Jessica Acey. We are now 10 years into the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nearly 6,000 American servicemen and women have lost their lives, and hundreds of thousands of Iraqi and Afghani citizens have been killed. Families all over the world have had their lives turned upside down. These wars have had and continue to have enormous human and economic costs that can be hard to comprehend. But our veterans and active duty men and women need our attention. As politicians and news pundits continue to remind us, the most important and often the only thing we can do is to support our troops. Listen as President Obama talks about this issue in his January State of the Union address.
Tonight, let us speak with one voice in reaffirming that our nation is united in support of our troops and their families. Let us serve them as well as they've served us, by giving them the equipment they need, by providing them with the care and benefits that they have earned, and by enlisting our veterans in the great task of building our own nation.
So, how are we living up to President Obama's call to action? And what does supporting our troops really mean? A disturbing new study shows that the Veterans Administration has been contributing to the homeless veteran population. Due to a backlog in processing thousands of disability claims, military members and their families are forced to live on the streets because of foreclosures and are heading into bankruptcy courts at an alarming rate. Most wounded veterans have to wait at least 6 months to get their first disability check from the VA after leaving the military. A recent episode of the Colbert Report makes light of the situation after Stephen Colbert tries to access services at a VA hospital. Check it out.
Of course, since I recently took my show to Iraq, I'm an Iraq war vet. So naturally, I went to my local VA hospital to ask them to extinguish my ankles. They said no because A, technically I'm not a veteran, and B, there are 1 million backlog veterans claims ahead of me. Though I may bear some responsibility for that, I did file 130,000 claims, one for each hair.
The stress of deployment and reintegration into life back home is felt acutely by immigrants and their families as well. The Guatemalan father of a U.S. Marine assigned to duty in Afghanistan was recently deported after being denied citizenship. Juan Andres had fought deportation by presenting immigration officials with letters from friends, an employer, his wife, and his 5 children, all of whom are U.S. citizens, including Lance Corporal Aspar Andres. His Marine son also made a public plea while on leave, asking immigration officials to show leniency for his father. Here is Jennifer Franklin, whose family employed Lance Corporal Andres' father.
I don't understand how Aspar can go and fight for the land, fight for our freedom, for the United States, and we can some way, somehow, make his father some type of citizenship.
There are literally thousands of these stories, like Army National Guard Specialist Hector Nunez, whose wife was deported from Chicago, to Vietnam veterans and brothers Valente and Manuel Valenzuela, fighting deportation now back to a country they left over 50 years ago. Not only do our veterans have to fight for their health care, their families, and their homes once they return, some service members have even lost their homes while on active duty. Just last fall, a Michigan National Guardsman by the name of James B. Hurley came home from Iraq to find that the bank had foreclosed on his house and sold it to another family. He was devastated. Hurley's lawyer, Matt Cooper, describes the impact.
He's lost everything. His home, all his possessions, his wife, the 2 girls he was going to adopt. What has he lost? He's lost everything.
A recent Defense Department study showed that service members consider their finances to be the second largest source of stress in their lives, ahead of deployments, health, family, and war. While Hurley has rented a house a few miles away, he is still plagued by the loss of his home.
It's kind of like a nightmare. It's just I ain't woke up yet. Because I still think about the other place. I still drive by it. And to my point of view, it ain't right.
In the last 10 years, we have seen admiration of military personnel soar to almost godlike levels. They are honored at sporting events, on TV, and in commercials. But behind all that glamour and glitz, when the curtain goes down, what kind of support are our veterans really left with? In the 60s and 70s, there existed a myth that Vietnam veterans were returning home only to be spit upon and antagonized by long-haired hippies. 40 years later, in a cold and hypocritical about-face, our veterans are returning home to fight a very different kind of battle. They have been betrayed by the very people who championed the militarization of America and used their war stories to turn a profit. Thanks for listening, and for more information, check out imagine2050.net. See you next time.